Today's video is yet again another rumor, building off of the last rumor video. It's important to remember that all rumors should be taken with a grain of salt until they are officially confirmed, and that rumors are reported purely for the fun of speculation. With that out of the way, let's get started. One of the most interesting things about the Final Fantasy franchise is that it's dipped its toe in pretty much every genre conceivable. I mean, we're even about to get a Final Fantasy Battle Royale. Growing up, I never thought we'd get a mainline Final Fantasy action game, much less all of this. And according to recent rumors, there is one other genre, I suppose you could call it, that Final Fantasy will be dipping into, allegedly. Recently, I did a video covering a rumor started by credible leaker Navtra, shortly after which a French leaker began to claim that this new game was going to be something Souls-inspired, and was being developed by Team Ninja. It's worth noting that Square Enix has worked with Team Ninja before, and recently in fact for Dissidia NT, a game which kind of not so good. This game is supposedly slated to be announced at E3, with a public alpha set to be coming this summer. It even has a leaked name, Final Fantasy Origin. Not to be confused with Final Fantasy Origins? Yeah, I know. Adding on to this, Imran Khan, news editor at Fanbyte Media and ex-senior editor for Game Informer, even went and tweeted out, "So yeah, this is a real thing." Navtra has also commented on the matter saying, quote, "It's tricky. It's certainly Souls-inspired, but not exactly what you would imagine when you hear Souls-like FF." So again, we have multiple reliable sources confirming that this game is in fact a thing. And while this one still should be filed into the rumor bin, it is looking insanely likely to be a thing. We might actually be getting Final Fantasy Souls. Or rather, I should call it by its alleged appropriate name, Final Fantasy Origin. Now that name, Final Fantasy Origin, is definitely implying some things. With that name, it suggests that it's the origin of the Final Fantasy series. Could this in fact be some sort of quasi-remake of the original Final Fantasy? I know quite a number of you who have actually asked for such a thing. The other possibility is that it could simply take place in the world of the first Final Fantasy. It's really hard to say, but I would be fine with either, and I'd be fine with this being its own Final Fantasy world as well. And again, this is a timed exclusive for PlayStation 5. However, these additional rumors do suggest that there is a PC release planned further down the road. The aforementioned public alpha demo that's going to be released this summer is said to be similar to Nioh's public alphas, used to get feedback from the fans while the game is in an earlier state of development. The game is similar to Nioh and other games in the genre, but is also said to be more accessible for a wider audience. All of this sounds really exciting, however, there is the big question of how the fans will react to this. Are there a large number of Final Fantasy fans that want to play a Souls-like game? I'll take a wild guess and say that there's probably a lot more that want to play this than, say, a Final Fantasy Battle Royale. Also, Final Fantasy games aren't traditionally very difficult. I mean, there's Final Fantasy VII Remake's hard mode, which genuinely does have some great challenge to it and is pretty fun to play. There's also some pretty challenging bosses in Final Fantasy XIII, but outside of that, Final Fantasy games aren't really known for the type of difficulty that you'd see in something like a Souls-like game. However, this is something that I personally welcome and I look forward to quite a bit. And when I inevitably play this on stream, I will probably be dying a lot, but I'm really looking forward to it. Final Fantasy is in so many different genres now. It's an MMORPG, it's a command-based action game, it's an action game, and now for it to be a Souls-like game is pretty cool. Seems like Final Fantasy is everything but a turn-based game at this point. Personally, I'm really looking forward to this one, but I want to know your thoughts, because I have a feeling this might be a 50-50 reaction at first, considering that before we knew any details on what this new game could be, most of you were hoping for things like Final Fantasy VIII Remake and a new tactics game. Sorry, it does not look like that's happening here. But please let me know in the comments below what you think of the alleged Final Fantasy Origin. Shout out to patron Tyler Erickson and the rest of the Ultima community.